So I did that for a number of years, and just trend was looking to transition to something else,
Hmm.
and kind of slowed down on training in that particular part of my life. But
Right.
those principles still have stuck with me.
Hmm.
Whether the mechanics of it are still
Right.
with me,
It's like
and
learning how to ride a bike.
it's like learning how, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like learning how to ride. It's like learning how to ride a bike. And then sometimes I see things, I'm like, oh, it's yeah,
Yeah.
this is yeah. It's like, oh, I used to teach this, or,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. But yeah, and also the philosophy. You know what I mean?
That's the part. That's the part that I feel a lot of times people don't take in consideration.
Yeah,
I think the philosophical aspect of martial arts is so impactful because you can be a good fighter,
one hundred
but
percent,
the main goal is to be a better person.
100%.
And I don't
Yeah,
think you can accomplish that without a degree of philosophical approach. What do you think of
absolutely.
that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm going like back into my 20s when I was competing, and maybe a little bit more also hard headed, and you could have the best technique, you could have the most vigor and the heart of the lion and whatnot, but it really is the philosophy on how you apply that. Otherwise, you can you just end up being a
Yeah,
knucklehead, getting himself into
yeah,
I got myself into found myself in a couple of situations
yeah,
when I was younger and different fights and whatnot. And you look back on certain things and
yeah,
you're like, to your point, the philosophy. And as
yeah.
as you mature, regardless of your age, right? As you mature and you really start to practice that
Hmm.
philosophy, some situations it's not about
Hmm.
you being able to impose your will
Yeah,
on a person. It's
hmm,
being able to impose that upon
yeah,
yourself. You know what I mean? And again, keep yourself calm and
yeah,
comfortable and focused in uncomfortable situations, and not be so
yeah.
reactive.
It always brings to mind one image that I have.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the most clear expression of the philosophy. It's like the Spider-Man moment.
Oh yeah.
Like with great power,
Comes great
great
responsibility. Yeah,
responsibility,
you
man.
have a
And a lot
responsibility.
of
Yeah.
times people don't realize if you have martial arts, it's powerful,
Yeah.
right? But it has to be powerful in a way that you control yourself. You know
100%.
what you're capable of, but you're always going to be restrained, self-restrained, and know that because you know what you're capable of, the likelihood of you infringing upon it will be less likely. I remember back in Brazil, there was one part of the beach that every single inch was occupied by the fighter. A
Wow.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, a Luta Livre guy who's like a no-gi blend of Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody would mess up with each other. Everybody was cordial. And because they knew that everybody kind of could stand their ground.
Yeah.
So do you have that implicit kind of like a vibe? But on the other hand, when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have your skills, it makes you negotiate without imposing your power, like you said.
For sure.
You
Yeah, yeah.
you're humble,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you're strong.
Yeah, yeah, you don't know, like, because it's like you don't know what you don't know, and then you
Yeah.
come across certain situations, or even now training, where I couldn't see myself at this state part of my life getting into a street altercation. Like it
Yeah.
literally is so
Yeah.
far removed because I would just stand down, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, or remove myself from that situation. And it's a combination of the two. It's like you don't know what you don't know. This person talking to me, or maybe one of my
Hmm.
friends, or my girlfriend at the time, or something like that, talking, saying something that you can still protect and defend, but de-escalating. I
Yeah.
think I think being able to de-escalate a situation is an important
Yeah.
skill, part of martial arts, because you don't know what you don't know, and they don't know what they don't know, and
Yeah. That's
it's
true.
it's not
That's a
worth
question
finding
mark.
out. It's
And
not worth
nowadays,
it's not worth finding out. It's not
nowadays,
worth,
if
right?
you're here in Texas, for instance,
Yeah,
the odds are very high somebody has a gun.
yeah. So
You
what's the
know,
point,
and
right? Yeah,
anywhere somebody has a blade or something,
yeah.
it's not that if you have to defend yourself, you're going to do what you can with what you got.
Absolutely, yeah.
But being wise, I guess,
Yeah, there's
that's
nothing to
the main
prove. I
thing.
think that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is. Like, and that's the thing now. Is like
I agree.
there's nothing to prove. Even to myself, there aren't things that
Yeah,
I'm trying to even. There are challenges, I
hmm,
suppose. There's for sure challenges,
yeah,
but I don't get that sense that there's something that I really need to prove to myself.
yeah,
I'll set a challenge and like, hey, let's go after that challenge with a technique problem solving or situation,
Yep.
but it really is, which might have sounded a little bit
Mm-hmm.
like Pollyanna or booky to me a while ago, a few years back, but it really is like, oh, I'm really the fight is against myself. The
Yep.
challenge is against is
The
really,
person
it
in the mirror,
really
right?
is, it really
Isn't the person in the mirror the
yeah.
main one?
Yeah, and it
Crazy,
really
right?
is. Yeah. And then you think that, and I would think that, I would hear them like, yeah, and then you go on the mat, and then, maybe there's this guy or that guy, whoever it is, for like month after month after month is smashing you, and you look in the mirror, the fight is against myself, the fight
Yeah.
is against myself, the fight is against myself. And then at some point,
Yeah.
it really is like, oh, yeah, the fight really is against
Well,
myself.
there's that law in jiu-jitsu. One day you're the hammer,
Whether you're in the.
not the day you're the nail, right? But sometimes, depending who you're going with, if that guy goes more than you, or he's like a full-fledged martial artist,
Yeah.
the odds of that guy being the hammer for a long haul. So I guess you limit to, let's see if I can be a good nail at least, right?
That's a very good point. Yeah, like sometimes it'd be like, oh, so there's some guys. I'm like, okay, hey, this guy, whether it's the physicality, technique, or experience, I'm like, hey, if I can just be a good nail in this session and survive this, or if I can just maintain a position, with there's certain people in my academy, like, okay, hey, if I can just maintain a position with this, that's a win. That's a win.
Well, I want to jump into your acting, and I know from Yellowstone to the Mayor of Kingston,
Yeah.
Taylor Sheridan, the Sheridan Mafia. People are just throwing that right there. I said, man, you hooked up with a big wig right there, man. And so it's intriguing, and I know you come from a jazz, and your dad was a
You do.
musician.
You guys with some digging.
So I mean, you went into music, you dealt with real estate, you had daytime job, working finances, different things. And acting was kind of like that revelation moment that man, that's my calling, and then, you got your short film, you start to dig into it. You wrote. I see a lot of correlations because I think when I saw Taylor's story, he was tried to act, and then he became a writer, and then from there, a director and a producer. You started already writing, right? Is that what you did?
Yeah, that's a good interesting way to look at it. Taylor, Taylor's a good friend of mine, for a minute, and very sharp dude, one of the most authentic people that I know, and I picked that up from him, from the first time that we had met, which now going close to like 20 years now, like
Is that how long you guys met?
It's been
When did that happen the first time?
Well, then it happened. I mean, I credit Taylor with being very supportive too about me getting into acting, because at that time I was in LA and I was doing music. I was writing and producing records, and I thought that, for me, it's been about kind of chasing the story, so to speak, and so when you mentioned Taylor's journey, I think it's I obviously can't and wouldn't speak for him, but about his progression from as I see it, and to the degree in which I know him, of whatever that's measured, is following the story and how you can be part of the story. You know what I mean? And a friend of ours had connected us together, and he was doing coaching and stuff way back in the day in LA. And at that particular point, I was I was doing music there, but also considering I'm from the East Coast, headed back to the East Coast, headed back, and maybe just going to New York, and I'd been taking acting here and there. There was a catharsis in it for me, but I didn't really ever, and I mean this earnestly, I didn't really see myself as doing that. I didn't know, big fan of movies. That was one way that my father and I connected without saying anything. Was watching movies, watching old movies. So I'd just been fascinated with, like, how do people do that? You know what I mean? How do people do that and then create these worlds and elicit these emotions, or these people that I don't know, or these people that I'm watching that have long since passed, and I'm connected to them. I thought that there was a magic and a sorcery about that. But so when my friend had connected me, it's like, oh, you should go talk to my friend Taylor. And I was like, look, I'm just tired of this town.
Where was he at that stage, though? Was Taylor already? Had he already?
No.
You know, he didn't
No,
start.
he
It was
was
before Sicario,
Well,
right?
yeah, it was long before that. It was long before that. And yeah, a friend of mine introduced, and he's like, "Oh, you should go talk to my friend Taylor." And my friend Crocia, shout out to Crocia, and she's like, "Oh, you should go talk to Taylor." I was like I was like, I was like, I had a couple of cool coaches and whatnot. Anyways, I was like, I'll go by, and he was talking to a couple of people, and it was in this basement on Santa Monica, in LA, and or theater, excuse me, not basement, but theater, and
Yeah.
that just happened to be a little underground, and yeah, and I just listened to him talk about storytelling, and about the importance of and the power of storytelling, and the catharsis of storytelling, and I was like, oh, this dude gets it, and there was myself and maybe three other people in that room, and then who were checking things out or auditing, and then a couple of them walked out, like and then I just say, hey, Taylor, Rob Kirkland, and we just yeah, and then just stayed in contact, and whenever I was working on something, and he was very encouraging about me continuing on as an actor. So I just like a musician or martial artist. That at some, I mean, everyone needs coaching,
Right.
but sometimes you need to really become to take ownership of your craft. You need to kind of go out on your own. You need to find your own method. And so I wasn't and am not against coaching for sure. But I was not a lot of what I was running into was like, oh, at some particular point, I had training. I'd had extensive training as an actor too. I was like, and I was doing theater, but just for the sake of doing it because it brought me
He was building you
joy.
up.
Yeah,
As
and
well.
but as far as the business aspect and getting
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in that part of it, even though now people
It's more
see
of a passion.
pictures and everything and stuff, and I do that because it's part of the the business. But yeah, it was just more of a passion, and I was doing theater in and around LA for a number of years, just for the sake of doing it. But then yeah, it was a conversation with Taylor about pursuing it more. At another level, and he was very supportive early on. But yeah, that was way before Sicario, was before any of the stuff. I didn't really know that he was writing, but I'm not surprised by what he has achieved and continues to achieve, because that's just the sensibility that I got from him a while back.
I tell you what, Rob, one thing that you're bringing to mind with this story that you're telling me about
Yeah.
your connection with him, and that you had to find your own space
Yeah.
to figure out what you really, if acting was really what you wanted. I call that solitude for fortitude.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, sometimes you really have to get alone for a little bit and figure out what you really want. You spend time with yourself, which I feel a lot of times in the midst of Hollywood, and you have so many distractions and people come in and going, it can be very erratic.
Yeah, you got to
know?
answer. You have to answer to yourself.
Yeah.
Just like with jiu-jitsu, just at this part of my stage with that. I was like, oh, this is similar to that with acting, where you make the transition, and I'm now, you go and past blue to purples and the belts, and you start. It's like you have the person you have to answer to is to yourself. Yeah, casting and the producers or the network, everyone has a problem to solve, like when they're bringing you on, because they are rooting for you and would like you to help solve a problem, but you have to have your own measurement, just like within martial arts, just like within jiu-jitsu, of what your progress is. The minute you go into a situation, or I go into, I send something in for a read, or I show up on set and I am trying to affect, if I'm trying to affect who's watching me, I'm trying to affect the audience, or I'm trying to appease, anybody, it's dead. You know what I mean? It's dead, because then I'm outside of myself, and then you run that habit, to the danger of that habit, to where you are now performing. When other actors ask me, I was like, don't perform, don't perform.
Yeah.
Just be, and be earnest, be authentic, and transmute what's coming in, which is much like jujitsu, and sending it out. But you also need to have that practice separate.
Sure.
You should be going at a particular stage of doing something, of doing an art. At a particular stage, you need to be able to, when you're going to your instructor, your master instructors, whoever it may be, you're going to them for refinement. You know what I
Sure
mean? You're
thing.
going to them for refinement to, to help you find more depths to, but the agency has to be yours. And that I apply with my career as an actor and writer and that career as a martial artist. And to circle back with Taylor, I think from my point of view with the progression of his career, which has been extraordinary and inspiring, is I don't even I can't wouldn't even necessarily say in my end that it was a conscious decision. I just see it as Taylor. I mean, he's conscious about what he does, trust me, but and conscientious too. But him following the story and how he can best serve the story, and just like sometimes there's something
Hmm.
that pops up and he'll go in
Hmm.
and do it as an actor, and how can he best serve the craft of
Yeah.
storytelling, and that's how I see it too. I started out, and I still do write, and I
Hmm.
was writing music and whatnot. So I was like, oh, I found it now that my
Yep.
thing about it as an acting is like, oh, this is how I can serve story.
Yep.
This is how I can serve story right now.